Part 57. The Treaty of Medina. The Prophet wrote a constitution for the inhabitants of Medina, which comprised all tribal and religious groups, including the emigrants, helpers, Jews, and pagans. It is recorded in full in the earliest books of Seerah, such as Ibn Ishaq, but without a direct chain of narration. Books of Hadith mention the treaty with a full chain, such as Musnad Imam Ahmad, which states, "The Prophet wrote a book between the Muhajirun and the Ansar." However, they only make reference to the treaty or quote one or two clauses therein. The chain of narration for the full treaty stops at Ibn Ishaq. This has led some to claim that the treaty did not exist. However, the intricate details of the treaty, such as naming every single subtribe, and the archaic language of the treaty, which did not fit with the language of Ibn Ishaq's era, are strong indications of its authenticity. The treaty was over 5 pages long and comprised of 4 main segments. Number 1, matters pertaining to the Muslims. Number 2, matters pertaining to the Jews. Number 3, matters pertaining to the pagans. And number 4, general rules for every inhabitant of Medina. In the first segment, the treaty stated,
"The believers, Mu'minun, from the Quraysh and Yathribi, and those who join them are one nation, Ummah. This Ummah is unique to itself to the exclusion of the rest of mankind."
The treaty then mentioned 40 subtribes by name and stated that each tribe will carry the responsibilities of its members. They will oversee their own blood money disputes, prisoners of war, and the poor and needy. Another clause stated,
"All Muslims shall unite against those who commit injustice, even if it be one of their own."
The treaty also made clear that any Muslim, of any social standing, can bring another person into the fold. That is, they can provide protection, the closest equivalent of a modern-day visa. As for the second segment, the treaty named each Jewish subtribe and stated,
"All the Jewish tribes are one nation, along with the believers."
The treaty clarified that the Jewish nation is responsible for all its internal affairs, such as internal disputes, blood money, and the poor and needy, as aforementioned. However, if there are disputes between the two nations, that is, the Jews and Muslims, it will be deferred to the judgment of the Prophet. The Jews therefore enjoyed semi-independent statehood within the Islamic State. The treaty added,
"Between the two nations shall be mutual support against those who fight the people of the treaty."
This included financially and physically supporting one another against any external threats. Moreover, if any Jew wishes to convert to Islam, he is to be supported, and no one shall harm them. Finally, the treaty stated that no Jew can revoke their Medinan citizenship without informing the Prophet, so that everyone is aware of who is bound by the treaty. As for the third segment, the treaty stated,
"No pagan shall offer protection to the Quraysh, nor are they to come between the Quraysh and the believers."
The pagans were not forced or even asked to convert. The very fact that there was a sizable pagan population in Medina proves that they were not forcibly converted or coerced. The fourth and final segment comprised general clauses concerning everyone. First, the treaty outlined the interior of Medina as a haram for the subjects of the treaty. Like Al-Masjid al-Haram and the Kaaba in Mecca, haram means that many acts which are ordinarily permissible, halal, are prohibited, haram, in the designated area. In other words, it is a sacred site. Brandishing unsheathed weapons is forbidden in a haram, as well as hunting and even uprooting trees and plucking plants. The treaty also demarcated the borders of Medina as Mount Air, Mount Thor, the eastern volcanic plain, and the western volcanic plain. The treaty reiterated that any interfaith conflict, that is, between a Jew and a pagan and a Muslim, or a Muslim and a Jew, will be resolved by Allah and His Messenger. The final clause stated that whoever leaves Medina is safe, except those who commit a crime. The standing of this treaty has been overstated by some and unduly dismissed by others. Some claim that the treaty was the basis for modern-day constitutions, directly inspiring current conventions around the globe. The treaty was indeed unprecedented for its time. It was the first time in the history of Arabia that relationships were defined based on theology, and that the notion of an ummah was the backbone upon which society would be governed. That said, it would be an overstatement to claim that the treaty had impacted global governance. In contrast, some claim that the treaty was discriminatory to the Jews, ostracizing them. On the contrary, the treaty dealt with the Jews with respect and fairness, identifying them as an ummah alongside the Muslims. Most of their rules and regulations were equally applied to the Muslims themselves. It could even be said that the treaty signified a bastion of tolerance compared to the religious intolerance rampant throughout the world at the time. The treaty established the basis and overall philosophy of how an Islamic state is governed. The unification of tribes under the umbrella of Islam was a major step away from tribalism. This was taught from the beginning of Revelation, but it was now codified in a constitution. The Prophet did not eradicate tribal identity. The Quran states,
O humanity, indeed we created you from a male and a female, and we made you into peoples and tribes so that you may know one another. Surah 49, verse 13.
The Prophet therefore accepted the legal norms and customs, commonly referred to as urf, of every tribe as long as they did not conflict with the laws of Islam. However, rank and status are only derived from piety and closeness to Allah. The same verse continues,
Surely the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous among you. Allah is truly all-knowing, all-aware. Surah 49, verse 13.
The word ummah shares the same root as the word which means mother. It is derived from the word amma, which means to strive for. The object of attention of a child is their that is, mother. The ummah is therefore a nation with one common goal, to please Allah. Indeed, ties based on religion, sharing values, ethics, and theology, are far stronger than those derived from sharing a tribe or nationality.